Mandy Morris, we are so happy to have you here on Livsenergi. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
Yeah. So you were so quick. I never thought I would get an answer the day before New Year's Eve. And you were so quick in responding to my question. So I'm so grateful to be here with you just a few weeks before the launch of your book in Swedish.
So excited. As soon as your email came in, it didn't matter if it was close to the holiday. I was like, yes, we're doing this. We must.
Wonderful. So what does because you were a little bit attracted to the Swedish, the market. So let us hear, what's your connection to Sweden?
So I am primarily, although I'm a mix of things, I'm primarily Swedish. That's in my lineage. And of course, my clients and my friends, everyone that comes from Sweden are so close to my heart, just amazing people. So knowing that the book was translating into Swedish was so exciting for me. And then when you reached out, I was like, I'm so there.
We love to hear that, We're such a small country in this big world. And the US, where you are, is so big. And it's something that, it's good to be noticed by you.
Oh, well, likewise.
I want to show you the Swedish version. It's printed and I have it in my hand. I hope that you have seen the cover because I got it approved.
Yes.
It was very quick too. Are you a doer?
A doer?
A doer. When you get things done.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Otherwise, it sits in my brain space. So I'm like, as soon as it's in front of me, let's make it happen or get it off the plate.
Yeah. Smart.
Yeah. It helps
you don't procrastinate ever.
Yes.
Good. So this is the book and it's called in Swedish, Manifesteringsdrottningens åtta hemligheter. So in the original title is The 8 Secrets of Powerful Manifesting. It's been out for a while in the US. You got amazing reviews in Amazon. And if we were to listen to all the praise that you get from all over the world, I could kind of call you the queen of manifesting.
I've been called that many, many times, funny enough. I've never called myself that, but it's
No, you seem humble enough not to, perhaps.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that was a good response because I made it up myself. I figured it just came to me. So the queen of manifesting. How did this happen, Mandy?
It was completely by happenstance. A huge part, even though I talk about science and psychology most often when I'm talking manifestation, I love that spiritual piece. I love living by the breadcrumbs of life because I didn't do that most of my life. I was so controlling. I wanted to micromanage how my life looked. And when I surrendered some of that and really embedded all of those pieces, manifestation really just kind of came out of it. I had no idea I would be teaching manifestation or I would call it that. It was just so beautifully coming together as I was going through my own journey of learning how to have a beautiful life when I hadn't had that prior. And it just shaped itself very, very quickly. And it felt quite divine that was one of the many things I should say that I do in this world, but that I'm most known for would be manifestation.
Yeah. What else do you do?
So it's turned into many, many things. I'm quite the entrepreneur. I didn't think that I ever would be. I was more of the tell me to do it and I'll do it type. And over time, it's been starting charities and philanthropic initiatives, the things that fulfill my soul. I eventually purchased a retreat center, which was a manifestation in and of itself. Becoming an author, I'm certainly not first an author. It was my work that got out into the world, and I was asked to write books. And so I kind of course, a mom and all of the personal things as well, a wife. But I put my hands in quite a few different buckets to keep myself busy.
I bet you are busy.
Yeah. I like it that way.
Yeah, I do too, actually. And sometimes sometimes I banish myself for liking that because we should also take care of oneself. But I think I'm the type, though.
Yeah. And it's all about intention. If my intention is to avoid myself or keep things so chaotic and busy that I don't have to deal with my thoughts, that's one thing. But if I'm enjoying and I'm just so full of life, well, then that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. So we are talking about manifestation, and something that came to me now when I was just driving my car. I figured, so how is the law of attraction and manifesting linked together?
So I think the law of attraction, the way that I look at it, is more through physics. I have a lot of friends that I've been blessed to learn from in metaphysics and quantum physics and so forth. And so when I started to take all that intellectual knowledge and drop it down into my heart, I found manifesting. And so I think manifestation's gotten this really incorrect perception, which is understandable because of how I think it's been talked about, that it's this magic wand and it just drops on some people's heads and not on others. And in my mind, the way that I saw it was the law of attraction is this promise that we have from the divine that, and of course it's backed up, by science, let's say, but it's this understanding that how we interact with our environment will always produce an outcome of some sort. And we are actually in charge of that. Thus we can manifest. And so I think that they've been perceived as maybe two different things in moments, or they need to be perceived as two different things. But one is a little bit more solid in the intellectual understanding, and manifestation is kind of utilized as that spiritual component that manifestation can become after we've intellectualized and done the work.
So is one the theory and one the tool, or?
Yeah, great way to put it. Absolutely. Because my perception of manifestation, which I think has been misconstrued throughout the understanding of manifestation globally, is that it's something that we actively do. But manifestation is something we're doing all the time. Whether we like it or not, it's not that we are ever not having a conversation with our environment or with the energy around us or with the proverbial universe. That is always happening until we pass away. So what is the conversation that we're having? And then we can utilize the laws of attraction, the things that simply are and have continued to prove to be. And then we can utilize them to create that which we do desire versus creating that which we don't.
So exactly. And what you're saying is be careful what you think about, or
and
take care of your thoughts.
Yes. And I think, thoughts in and of themselves aren't too powerful. I remember one of my practitioners asking me this. She's like, what's the difference between thoughts and emotions? Because I always say emotions are really what moves our consciousness. Not that thoughts don't, but they're not as powerful without human emotion attached to them, which is why we can utilize emotions to our advantage. And I talk about that quite a bit in the book. But a thought in and of itself may not have a ton of power. If I'm just sitting there thinking about how I get home that day, or I'm thinking about how yesterday went, or what I'm going to cook for dinner, I'm not really creating a whole bunch of creation power. I'm not directing my consciousness in a very laser-like way, if you will. But if I attach an emotion to it, whether it's a positive or a negative emotion, I am juicing it up and I'm giving it quite a bit of power. And those are the things that tend to manifest most often.
Yeah. So we want to move energy, kind of.
Absolutely. That's saying where thoughts go, energy flows. My idea is wherever our consciousness is directed, whether we are aware where it's being directed or we're not, that is what manifests itself. And so the work then becomes, what am I not knowing I'm giving my energy to without knowing it? And how do I become aware of it? And then the whole game changes.
Sounds very easy, but it's very tough.
It requires work. Yes. Everyone always
says. First of all, you have to be aware, right? About what are you thinking about? Where are you putting your energy, your consciousness?
Absolutely. Yeah. I always say manifestation, in essence, the way that I look at it, it's self-mastery. It doesn't have to be hard and painful, but it is knowing yourself. It's not about manipulating your environment or trying to get someone to do what you want or pulling the Lamborghini towards you. It is about being all of you, authentically so, and knowing who you are and how you interact with all that is.
Did you have coming up to where you are today, you're coming from somewhere where you needed something to happen in order to get the life that you wanted, I guess. So on the way, did you have an epiphany that struck you so hard that you realized that manifestation it's the real thing? Can you tell us?
Absolutely. Most of my life and my childhood and so forth was pretty rough. And I started to choose dysfunction. I was very used to it. It's what I was familiar with. So the idea of having a beautiful life, of manifesting what I want, got further and further away from me the older that I became. And there was a really defining moment. I was in a very abusive relationship and it had recently turned physical. And it was this one night where it was just one of the darkest moments. I had plenty of dark moments in my life up to that point, but this was just really defining for some reason. And I looked at my life. I looked at all the poor decisions I had made. I looked at my traumas. It was just this kind of like life flashing before my eyes experience. And I dropped to my knees. And it really was this theatrical. It should be a movie, I swear. I dropped to my knees and I called out to my higher power. And for some reason, what I asked for was, tell me what I'm supposed to do for the world. I'm here to do something. I'm not doing it. I can feel I'm so unfulfilled and I'm so out of alignment. I don't need money. I don't need love. I don't need children, all the things that I, of course, personally want, but let me be a vessel for whatever it is that I came here to do. And it was like this energy just washed over me, and life was literally never the same again. And it wasn't that everything became perfect. It was that I was finally willing to do the work, and I started to acquire the tools to change my life, and miraculous things were happening. And I realized that's manifestation, is when you're on the journey towards yourself and you are expanding and growing daily. It's not that it looks perfect in every moment, but it feels so perfect and it feels incredible. And then all of those magical things start dropping on your head because you're sitting in that beautiful vibration. You're in that clear mental space where the world is working for you instead of against you.
Wonderful. So what has this tool meant to you in life? It must be life-changing.
It absolutely was. When I started to embrace that which I teach now, it's not that I learned it from someone. It was me looking back on everything that didn't work. I have quite, that sciencey mind. I want to test it out. I want to document it. I reverse engineer it. I have journaled everything in my life since I was 5 years old. So I'm always looking back and saying, how did I create that? What happened there? And then I turn it into something that I can share with the world. Because once you go from despair and frustration and pain and all the things that I sat in most of my life to where I sit today, you want the whole world to feel it because it's so incredible. And so it's a day in, day out experience for me now.
That's beautiful. Congratulations. You found it.
Thank you. Yeah. And I want the world to feel it. It's so incredible. And if we're all there collectively as humanity, if we're all sitting in this beautiful space, it's so much bigger than getting the fancy car or the money or the thing that people think manifestation's tied to. It's about us having such a high level of consciousness that we collectively work together and we create heaven on earth. That's what I'm after, is how do we change this conversation around manifestation? So we're not after the human goods. Those come, absolutely. I sit in so many blessings in a way, but those are not most important. The fulfillment comes from my heart, and there's an emotion I experience, and I'm able to give that to others, and then they give that to others, and the world changes and heals in the process.
Yeah. Pay it forward. Have you seen that movie?
Yes. Oh, it was one of my favorite. It probably shaped me without knowing it. I watched it as a kid and just over and over and over again.
I know, it's beautiful. And it's really what we're talking about here.
The ripple effect.
What do you think has made you the thought leader in manifestation as you have become?
That was really by happenstance. I had no idea that I would become so well known, that I would work with world leaders and celebrities and athletes and moms and dads and nurses and teachers and other or thought leaders in the industry. I'll never name their names, but they come to my husband and I for service. And it's wild to me. I think that just me showing up raw and real and authentically and being honest, I truly practice everything I preach. I don't stand up on a stage and say something that's untrue or that I'm not willing to do myself. And I think people feel that. I think that resonates with individuals. And so when I first started, I was just making videos sharing how I was healing myself, and it just gained traction. So it was such an organic process. And now looking here, not even a decade later, I'm like, how did I get to this space? How am I so blessed to serve people and help people heal and manifest, which is so much more to me. It's about healing our trauma and leaning into ourselves and it being fun and there being a beautiful essence to it and it being done with love and excitement. And I have no idea why, but I feel like I'm just blessed to be able to share it with people and that people want to hear what I have to say.
One person who praises you and loves everything that you do is Anthony William, and
he's like a brother to me. I love him.
Yeah, you know each other personally.
Yes, very much so.
He he was the one who opened my eyes to your book because he talks so warmly about it. And I guess I needed that kind of credibility around. I don't know if it was around this subject or what it was, but it felt so true and so real and so authentic from him. And it's a lot about your humility and your authenticity in yourself and your work and your love for humanity and the good for the world.
Amazing.
So I guess there's something in there.
Anthony and I very much share our deep, deep, deep love for humanity. He has a driving force of energy behind him. I don't have as much energy as he does, but we both love the world the same way. And so we really resonate and link up in that way, brothers and sisters and serving humanity.
That's wonderful. First and foremost, Livsenergi is a book club. So we have a bit over 14,000 members who all are very interested in spirituality and inner development. Amazing. Spiritual and health-wise, like body, mind, spirit, right?
Yeah.
And Anthony's books are the most wanted books in our book club.
Yeah, he writes them with so much passion and so much divine knowledge and worldly knowledge as well. He's just incredible. I can't say enough about him, but I adore him.
This interview is about you, Mandy.
We can talk about Anthony. I'm fine with that. I love him.
Oh, I will never get an interview with him, so I'm super happy that you're here. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, how will you describe the book? So I'll show it again just for everyone to know. So here it is, Mandy Morris, Manifestering's åtta hemligheter. And I will actually read the subtitle in Swedish. Förverkliga dina drömmar med snabba, effektiva och beprövade metoder. So it's actually the direct translation of the original. So what is this about? Tell us the elevator pitch.
It's so funny. Whenever someone asks for that, I'm like, it's different every time because I'm just tapped into the energy and I'll say whatever comes out. But the 8 secrets were written to give something tangible. I think everyone got really excited about manifestation, and I didn't want it to seem so spiritual in the sense that the only people who can do it are people who sit around and do yoga and eat granola all day. I totally do that. I love that. I think it's great, but I don't think that it got enough of the validity that it needed as well, so that it could reach the people it really needs to reach, which are some of the left brainers, people who think more logically. And so I wanted to create a book because I'm very much prove it to me. I like the science. I love psychology. That's a lot of my background as well. But I can tell you right now, most of my friends, although I won't even say some of their names because they are working behind the scenes in the world and they're doing crazy things and they like to stay behind the scenes so they can do their work quickly and quietly. They're all into spirituality, even though they're some of the most logically intelligent people on the planet. And so it's something that everyone's utilizing. It's just not always talked about, but it's powerful and it's needed. And so I was trying to bridge that gap of, if you're someone who you think about manifestation and you're like, well, that sounds great, but right, as if. But there's a part of you that knows that it could be, or there's a yearning to have a life that is of ease. I was like, well, let me throw in tangibles and explain why most people don't end up getting there. And it's not what you think. It's not because someone's born with a silver spoon in their mouth and someone isn't. It's that we have to do a little bit of work. We have to master ourselves a wee bit and understand ourselves. And so the book is really all about, how can we give tangible steps that allow for someone to be introduced to themselves and forever cracks them open in a way that they can never close their eyes again and go to sleep. They're wide open. It is what it is. We've woken them up and they have the tools.
So there are 8 secrets. Have you kind of curated your own work, or how did these come about?
So 8 was just the perfect number. I think with my line of work, I could probably talk about 50 different things. But when I broke it down, I was like, 8 for one is a powerful, powerful number. Yes. And really everything kind of fell underneath the umbrella of 8 main topics. And then as you read the book, you see there's some subcategories to that and steps and so forth. But as I chiseled it down, I was like, if someone just implemented these 8 things, or even just one of the 8, their life will change in some way, and it will bring them back to some type of growth where they will see positive manifestations. And then that will keep them on their journey of self-discovery. It will keep them ignited. So 8 was I hate to say it, but divinely inspired number. And then I just broke everything down in such a way that it fit into that.
Yeah. Were you asked from a publisher to write the book, or did you? Yeah,
it was a beautiful manifestation. So back in the end of 2016, I had journaled this. I completely forgot until I went back and looked at it. I had wrote, it would be really neat if it was in the highest good of all to write a book for Hay House. Now in 2016, barely anybody knew me. I had just finished writing my first book, which was self-published. I didn't send it to any publishers. It wasn't formatted right, nothing, but I was like, it's my book. I want it to just be perfectly imperfect. And right after I finished that, I had written that down, completely had forgotten. And then fast forward to 2019, one of my staff members, we'd grown astronomically in those three years. One of my staff members reached out and she said, someone emailed from a publishing company, they want to speak to you. And so I was actually at the dealership of Rolls-Royce, those vehicles. I was purchasing one for my husband. Truly so much growth in those 3 years. And we were moving into a new home right on the beach in Laguna and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there on the stoop on the phone with this wonderful woman from a different publishing company. It actually wasn't Hay House, but she said, the way that you touch people and the way that you communicate is so beautiful. I'm paraphrasing. And she said, do you think you have another book in you? And I was like, if you are the ping from the universe that I'm supposed to, sure. I wasn't thinking about it, but absolutely. And so the book began to birth from that. And then just by crazy circumstances and wonderful friends, I was kind of plopped at the doorstep of Hay House, and they are incredible, wonderful family to publish with. And so it was just beautifully and divinely guided. And now I'm writing my second book with them.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Is it a follow-up or is it on a different topic?
It will be still related to manifestation, but I wanted to take a different twist to it. You know, at the foundation of all of my work, even though I like to put a little bit of science and neuroscience and psychology and so forth into it, really at the foundation of it is the frequency of true love, unconditional love. Mm-hmm. And it's embedded throughout my work. And I really believe it's where humanity needs to go next. I think it will do some very instantaneous healing if we can get there. And so I wanted the next book to be, yes, still rooted in, the facts and so forth, but a little bit more of introducing that energy to the world.
Yeah. And still tangible.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm known for, and I love it. So I can't help it. It just shows up.
It's great. So I want to say also to all the viewers that Mandy can be found on YouTube. There are tons of videos, and you really share a lot. You and William are both good in that way. So you share a lot of work, not outside of your books. And so we can find you in many places, and we will put in the links in the end of this interview. Yeah. So there are a lot of spiritual people who like manifestation as a tool to build their lives in the direction that they want. So what do you see? Do you see other people that don't perhaps, you said this a little bit, but what can you say about the trend in manifesting? Is it bigger than the spiritual field?
It is, so much so. I think that's where it starts, and sometimes why it might get rejected or accepted. But it's really, to me, manifestation is the science, the psychology, and the spirituality. And all three are needed to be able to consistently create a well-rounded life. I think that's why I have so many individuals who will come to me and they seemingly have it all. And certainly on camera or, whatever it is, it seems as such. And they're saying, I've got, billions of dollars, but I'm unhappy. Or I've got a beautiful marriage, but I don't have this. How do you have it all? And I think when we look at the science, the psychology, and the spirituality, we're hitting it from every angle. And that really allows for everyone, regardless of the way we've been raised or our programming or our misconceptions or perceptions of manifestation, it allows for us to kind of blend it all together and say, oh, now this makes sense. It's not just spirituality. It's not just meditations and affirmations, which are not things that I really do very often. This is about us mastering ourselves. This is about understanding our minds and, yes, our energy and how we're wired and why we are the way we are. And when you put all of that together, it really works for anyone.
Is there any way you can shortly say a few words about because you come back to the science, the psychology, and the spirituality. So short about the three components.
Yes. So science, I hit it from two angles, and I'm very surface level. I'm no physicist or anything of the sort, but I have plenty of friends. So I always ask them, am I right in my thinking? And they're like, yes, you're completely accurate per science, at least. Although science is always reproving itself and disproving itself. But I know that there's many folks who like that. So it's neuroscience. And I look at if we are neurologically wired a certain way because of the things we've gone through in life, and it now dictates our behaviors and our perceptions of reality, well, that's something that we can change. When we change it at a deep enough level, neurologically, we change as well. Our brains begin to change, our reactions change, therefore our reality changes. So that's a really simple way to look at manifestation. Then there's also the physics of it, right? And that's quantum physics and metaphysics, how our energy interacts with other energy, our ability to receive information. We really are, we're biochemical in nature, but we're also electrical. Our bodies are electrical. We are receiving information, electricity, communication, whatever we want to call it, energy in essence, all the time. And we're also sending it out. So understanding that communication system, not in deeply scientific ways, I could rattle off on things that really aren't helpful to changing your life, but are just interesting, sure. But understanding the basics of those principles are so powerful because it helps that more logical or rational or doubtful, as I call it, part of us to kind of take a back seat so that we can bring in the beautiful change we need. And then the psychology, well, that's us understanding ourselves. That is us maybe healing certain traumas, but not having to go back into them. My rule is we do not have to relive the trauma. We just have to work on the belief the trauma may have created. And we have had great success with that. I didn't say this in the beginning, but I certify therapists and coaches and practitioners and all kinds of folks. And I've had doctors shadow me in one of my methodologies that I created while working clinically in Scandinavia. Funny enough, I lived in Bergen for some time. And it's been wild. And really, that psychology piece of understanding the root of why we are the way we are is so powerful. And then, of course, we can shift it and change it. And spirituality, that's really kind of not the end point, because it's needed throughout, right? That's where faith comes in. That's where understanding that which we can't understand. That's the knowingness and the peace we have, and trusting in maybe a higher power or trusting in a higher version of ourselves. And what I love about the spiritual piece is it knows everything that psychology and science try to prove, and it's already there. And I get it. We all have to walk through our journey and prove it, disprove it, and fight with ourselves about it. But we find this beautiful space. And that's where I think the perception of manifestation that a lot of people have, that it's miraculous and random and too woo-woo, that's where it happens. But it's because we've removed the blocks that didn't allow for us to sit in this very natural space for us, which is the higher version of us.
Yeah, that's true. So what about your own manifestation? Do you manifest every day?
Yes. And so I have to say that
consciously,
all manifest. Yes. Right. Consciously. Thank you. Because we're always manifesting. And before, I was always manifesting that which I didn't want, because I didn't realize what I was asking for. I was asking for safety and certainty and consistent dysfunction because that's what I was used to. That's what I knew. And so in a really funky way, that was actually safest for me in some weird part of my mind. But now, of course, in going through my journey, my healing journey, my understanding of self and mastering myself, which never ends, by the way, I'm forever going to be growing. If I ever say I have arrived, I'm a liar. And if anyone says that, I don't believe them for a second. We should always be growing. We're never a final product unless we're dead. But for myself, every incredible manifestation, I wish I could say one, but my book deals, of course, my children, those were true manifestations. I write in the book about rules, and rules are a defining piece to our manifestations if they come through or if they don't. And I've had funky rules about having children, but they were perfectly met. And I'm actually pregnant now with another manifestation. And it's not just like, oh, I'm randomly pregnant. It was all of these incredible lessons and evolvement of myself that then brought in the blessing of, a child. Of course, yes, lots of money. I will say I'm okay with saying that now. Before I'd always be like, oh, it's so weird to talk about, but absolutely financial abundance, which I did not have most of my life whatsoever. Most of the time, my life was people buying me food and helping me, or me just, struggling financially and working multiple jobs and so forth. The homes, that we have lived in, outrageously beautiful, crazy ways that they plopped on our head. I remember, I'll just tell one. I wanted to move to Laguna Beach, to California, and I was living in a different state that did not have the ocean. And I just loved the ocean. And there were many reasons, humanistically and rationally, I felt like that could not happen. And I decided I surrender this. I'm going to follow. If there's any breadcrumbs, I'm going to follow it. And I'm going to remove the blocks along the way if they show up, so that I can manifest this thing that I really want. And I think it really is meant for me and the highest good of all. And within 2 weeks, we had moved to California, and it was insane. The processes that happened, the people that showed up, we had just I could go on and on, but it was absolutely outrageous where people would walk up to me and say, "You're supposed to live here." I mean, it was just sign after sign, just moving mountains so easily. And it was just beautiful and perfect. So things like that happen so often for me now that I can't really label one, but my life is a walking, beautiful, conscious manifestation, I will say.
Yeah. Do you have like a procedure, a daily procedure to keep in? Because I'm thinking you need to stay in your focus and stay in a certain frequency to be there and manifest in the right way every day. How do you keep yourself there?
So the first thing before I say that is, because I was someone who would judge myself. The moment that I didn't feel good, I would go, everything's going to fall apart. I am not in a good energetic space. That means I'm sabotaging everything. And that's not true. One of the biggest pieces that I learned through my process was, when I set a manifestation in motion, I'm not looking for everything to be perfect. I am actually waiting for a ball to drop, or for something to seem funky, or for me to get triggered, because that is the exact block that is holding me back from getting to the end result, from getting to the manifestation. It's what we do with those things that show up. So if someone says, "I want to manifest money," and then they're like, "Oh, then I got a bill in the mail the next day, I'm never going to manifest it." I'm like, no, it's perfectly happening. It is on its way so much faster than you think. But how you deal with that bill is everything. So to go to your question, my procedure is, I am focusing on my vibration, is what I call it, but my mental state and my energy consistently, not from a self-judgment. I do not panic when I dip at all. I know that it's feedback and I do something with it, which I talk about in the book, but I'm just checking in with myself. The first chapter of the 8 Secrets is energetic check-ins. And so now it's really just embedded in me. It's not something I do actively, but anytime that I feel my energy fluctuate, I'm stopping, I'm taking 5 steps back, I'm looking around, I'm understanding it. I'm trying to figure out what caused my consciousness to be directed. What's pulling on my energy? It's something I'm in resonance with. And if it doesn't serve me, I want to understand it. I want to heal it. I want to learn from it, because then it's not what happens, it's what I do with it, right? Then I'll expand. And I'll grow into a greater version of me that can handle all of life, can handle also more blessings. And now I've moved that much more quickly towards my manifestation. So I surrender to timelines. I don't typically worry about that per se. I just focus on my daily energy, getting it as high as I can. And anytime it dips, I'm not freaking out. I'm not judging it and placing meaning on it. I'm rolling up my sleeves and I'm getting excited, because I know it's a block I didn't know I had that is going to assist me in getting where I'm trying to go.
Can you manifest different things at the same time, like parallel manifesting?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing that I think is quite wild about my perception of manifestation is that everything exists in our beliefs. So if you believe something to be true, I really believe if someone believed 100% that they could fly, people levitate. You know what I mean? It's a belief that we have, and our minds are so much more powerful than we realize. And this really goes into my perception of some forms of metaphysics and quantum physics. Our mind is manipulating matter. Matter isn't manipulating us. Mm-hmm. And we will remember that. We remember our incredible power to change that which we want, which means if you want to manifest one thing, if you want to manifest a million things, it's your belief system. So if you don't believe it to be true, work on that. But otherwise, if you believe it, so it shall be.
That's very true. So whatever you believe in, it can be true. Yeah,
absolutely.
Your reality. Mandy, do you have a motto in life?
Yes, I do actually. And I got it from my mother. I used to hate it. I didn't understand what she was saying. I don't even know if she knew what she was saying, but she would tell me all the time, "Mandy, everything is a choice." And at the time that made me feel bad about myself, because I'd be like, I'm choosing this terrible life. Then I didn't choose my traumas. I didn't right. I would always look at it as a victim. But once I grew a bit more, I love it. Everything in life is a choice, because it's not that life, like I said, becomes perfect. but you become so equipped that everything feels perfect because you choose to see the perfection in it. And I think that's really the truth of the human experience that we keep forgetting.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more. And if you find yourself in a position that you don't like, and you say to yourself, well, I guess I chose this, then you can choose something else.
Yeah, it's empowering.
And make it over again.
As long as there's no self-judgment, it feels incredibly empowering.
Yeah. It goes well with mine. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, please.
Everyone should be able to have a happy life, but it's up to you to make it happen.
It sounds like ours is the same. Yeah.
I love
it. It's true. It's one of the hardest truths to come to, but once you do with love, it's so empowering.
Yeah, it's true. I like mottos, and I guess it kind of helps me manifest a little bit every day.
Right. It really does, because it goes back to our energy and what we perceive to be possible.
Yeah. But I'm super eager to read your rules and tips for, the dipping and coming back and staying in your frequency more often.
It's pretty wild. Again, I always say, roll up your sleeves. You are going to have to do the work. I think that's one of the reasons that my friends, some of which you mentioned, are okay with my work in manifestation, because I'm not talking about a magic wand. We're talking about doing the work, but the work doesn't have to be so heavy and hard. It can be fun.
Yeah, of course. And especially if you see the results. So what about the results? I have the perception that a lot of people try manifesting, don't succeed, and think it's bogus, and it takes too long. That's kind of myths or misperceptions that I find around me. What do you say?
Well, let's tackle the latter one that you said, which is it takes too long, right? I think this just beautiful, simple reminder of what else are you going to do with your time? If it takes, for myself, I wrote down that I wanted to create a book, and it took 3 years to manifest. I had actually surrendered, forgotten about it in totality, which I talk about in the book. It's called Set It and Forget It, Manifestation. But we've really, and this isn't to any fault of ourselves, I think it's just very societal and really a global problem we have, is that we're always looking for the end result, and we've forgotten about the journey. And I think that goes back to us searching for happiness instead of fulfillment. And there's a big difference between it. I remember hearing someone speak about this. I wish I could quote them, but it was this understanding that we're always looking for, now as I paraphrase it, we're always looking for this thing, this light at the end of the tunnel. We want the Lamborghini, we want the house on the hill, we want the soulmate or the purpose work, something seemingly beautiful, but we think that, and we hold back our feelings or our fulfillments until we reach that. Then we get it and we realize it didn't even give us the emotional experience we're looking for. And so when I'm talking about manifestation, I always say, you do not want the thing. You're not after the thing that you say you want to manifest, like money or whatever. You want the emotional experience. You think that thing will bring you, and you're robbing yourself of it until it comes exactly as your rules say it has to, which I guarantee, at least I certainly had, and the millions of people I've served for the past few years also have. We have rules that ensure we'll never get there. They contradict one another. They run into one another. So we don't know why it's not happening or why it's taking too long. It's simply because we're not doing it right. And there's an absolutely authentic process to doing it right. I'm not saying do my process. It will work every time. No, not at all. We're all snowflakes. We're all a little bit different and unique. Why I am the way I am and why someone else is maybe vastly different or quite similar. So it's about us finding that perfect process, but enjoying the journey along the way. And a huge piece of what I like to, or I'm attempting to show the world, is how do we enjoy it now? And then every day you just wake up, you look around and you're like, oh my gosh, it was amazing the whole way. But I also got here. I also got what I was looking for, but I wasn't waiting for it. I was feeling as if it was here all along because it was an emotion I was after anyway. And I realized I could create that emotion in more ways than one once I broadened my perspective.
Very true. Good
I like to think so.
Are there any other misconceptions that, or some things that you meet a lot, like problems or issues with manifesting, that you want to share?
I think we've kind of dabbled in a lot of them already indirectly throughout this conversation, but I think the big one, and this is just my definition of manifestation, is it's not about moving towards what you want. It's about understanding why you don't have what you want. And I call that counter manifesting. It's something I've been talking about for years and years. And a lot of people are starting to talk about it now, but it's something that I've always been into. I never really taught anyone how to manifest. I taught them how to stop manifesting what they don't want.
Yeah.
And so that misconception of, again, we're manifesting all the time. So let's just figure out what we're really asking for so we can change that conversation. And the rest just happens anyway. And it's much more beautiful that way because you're not so focused on, oh, I'm not getting the house or this thing isn't happening. Instead, you're working on all of the blocks you didn't realize that you had about it. And then it just shows up.
Yeah. You said something there that struck me. I'm going to go home and think about that one. You know, the one that, so why don't you have it?
Yeah. And if someone can
self-reflection.
Yes, absolutely. And if someone can entertain this idea for a moment, I believe that most often, and I don't put, massive trauma and grief in this bucket. So I hope people hear between the lines here. I don't think we get anything that we don't want. If I look back at one of my old relationships, the one that I shared and previous ones as well, if you had asked me, if you sat me down 15 years ago and said, well, don't you want a better relationship? Don't you want him to be faithful? Don't you want him to not call you ugly or fat and stuff? I'd be like, of course I don't want to be treated this way. I want him to love me and accept me as I am. I want unconditional love. But if I really looked at it and assumed responsibility without judgment of myself, but just empowerment, it was my father. It was my past. It was everything I knew. It was my sense of certainty. If they cheated, if they were unfaithful, I could always have one foot out the door. That made me feel safe. If they were emotionally unavailable, then I could be emotionally unavailable. And so in the funkiest of ways, my subconscious, which was protecting me from pain, or so it thought at least, was ensuring I was getting exactly what I wanted. But I wasn't aware that that's what I was asking for. And I imagine it like this. We consciously say we want something beautiful, right? Let's say for an hour a day, someone sits and they meditate and they mantra and they, all the things. And they're like, I want $1 million, or I want to find my soulmate, or tell me my purpose, whatever it is. The rest of the time, the 23 other hours of the day, your subconscious, I call it the subconscious reel, it is playing over and over and over again. And if it's saying things like money is evil, or you're unworthy of it, or you can't have it until you do this, that, and the other, or you're not capable, whatever it is, well, guess what? Energy is being fed out into the universe more often. Makes sense then, right? So again, going back to it, we just need to understand, what is that subconscious conversation? What is it that we're saying without realizing it? What energy are we sending out into the proverbial universe? And we're unaware of it. And when you bring that up to the conscious mind and you start sorting it out, ooh, things get magical fast.
But you need to dare to face it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think especially because I train a lot of therapists, and I call upon my friends who are therapists and psychiatrists. And I think that sometimes, and this is what I've heard from them, at least in the mental health field, we have accidentally painted growth or healing as really painful and cold and dry. And that was actually why I ended up creating my methodology. And it became such a huge part of my work was, what if we could tell people how much we really care about them? What if we could walk them through the healing instead of shoving it in their face? What if we could facilitate the unconditional love that they need for their subconscious to feel safe enough to quickly and easily release it? And that's really actually, I'm known more for that, I think, depending on what room I'm in, than manifestation, because that's how we manifest a beautiful life, is to stop thinking or perceiving that it's going to be so hard to heal the parts of us that are holding us back. It really doesn't have to be, or at minimum, it can be fun and there can be rewards for it as well.
But I think you're onto something here, because looking at my friends, I think a lot of people don't dare to go into personal development or looking at themselves because it hurts too much or it's too hard.
Yeah. What will I find? What box will I open that I can't close? How could I trust someone to help me through this extremely dark thing that was done onto me or that I did onto someone else? It's understandable. Yeah. That's why it's really important that we walk with, the right people who can cradle us in that until we can cradle ourselves.
True. So I know I'm asking for more time from you, but if you have 5 more minutes, we can just do.
Yes.
Good. Wonderful. So you're pregnant again. How many children do you have?
So I have 3, if you include the one in my belly. I've got my bonus son, he is 11, my 3-year-old son as well. And then I am 17 weeks pregnant today.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we will be able to follow you the whole pregnancy through.
Yes.
Look forward to see it. Do you know what it is?
Well, I feel like it's a boy, but we'll know, I think, in the next week, for sure. But I think I'm going to end up with all boys, just a few more, and we'll have a full basketball team.
Yeah, that's good. So where are you from in the United States?
So I was born in Washington. I've lived in lots of different places, but we call Colorado home now. My retreat center is close to us, and we live on this beautiful big plot of land. We have multiple homes on it, just a beautiful manifestation. If anyone follows me on social media, you'll see glimpses here and there, but we have our beautiful, wonderful home and space that has felt so right. We've lived many beautiful places in the world, but Colorado just seems to be our special spot.
Oh, I heard so much about Colorado. Never been though. So where you live in the same property where you have your retreat center?
Not same property. So this was a manifestation in itself. I was living in Laguna Beach, beautiful, huge home right on the ocean. I mean, it was a dream. We had celebrities coming in and out of our home every day that we were helping and serving. It was a wonderful time, but something about it I wasn't happy with. I was like, we're not supposed to be here for very long. And it was that's how I tend to receive information that I call divine, and I must act on it. I promised my higher power, when you tell me to move, I shall move. I'm here to serve humanity. And so I kept getting these visions of chickens pecking the ground, and some of our clients, going to events and walking around this sacred space. And I was telling my husband about it. He's an incredible energy healer. And he said, we're supposed to get a retreat center. And I was like, I think so. Because I couldn't understand. I was like, we're not supposed to live there. We're supposed to create this. And it was right before COVID hit. And it was incredible. Within, I think it was maybe 3 weeks, we had found this place. It's in Dolores, Colorado. I'd never heard of Dolores, Colorado. I didn't even know it was a place. It's an extremely small town. And we drove out there. We'd looked in Hawaii. We'd looked at all these different retreat centers. Nothing felt right. I personally wanted Hawaii selfishly, right? I would have gone for it. But I was like, it has to feel right. It has to be the divinely guided choice. And we got to this place in Colorado. We didn't even walk around the whole place. The real estate agent probably thought we were nuts. And he laughed at us because he's like, you guys are crazy. And I was like, we'll take it. He's like, you're serious? And I was like, we'll take it. He's like, I don't believe you. And I was like, I know we didn't even look at every room, but this is the place we're supposed to create this. And so I followed it. I didn't think, further. And we purchased it, and we decided, well, we'll live here for a little bit. COVID was absolutely insane in California, just the experiences, and we didn't want our children to experience it. We were blessed enough to not have to do that. And so we actually lived at the retreat center while we got it up and running. And then we loved the area so much that we ended up sticking kind of around, the area, but in Colorado, in essence, and we never went back to California.
Oh, no, everything has its time, huh?
Always.
Beautiful story. So do you like astrology?
I'm not very familiar with it. I have a friend who's a neuroscientist, and she very quietly is extremely into astrology, and the things that she'll tell me, she's like, this is your thing. And I'm like, it sounds totally spot on. I don't know enough about it or follow it enough. I just know I'm a Scorpio. So that's all I can really say.
That's exactly what I wanted to know. You're a Scorpio. So you had your birthday quite recently.
Yes. Yep.
What's the date?
November 8th. I turned 33. 8th. Yes.
So my husband is the 9th.
Amazing.
My sister is the 6th and my cousin is the 7th.
So you love Scorpios, I hope.
I do. I'm a Taurus, and I think they say, because I'm the same as you, I like it. I think it's fun and quite interesting, actually, but I don't know so much. But I've heard that I am a good match with Scorpios.
Amazing. My youngest is a Taurus, and he is so much fun. And we are like two peas in a pod.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to see if I have missed anything important. Do you manifest by decision, like consciously? Now I need to sit down and manifest, or do you just do it? How do you do it?
It's changed over the years. I definitely did that before, and I still do this. If there's something really specific I want to create, I will sit down and I will write it down, and then I will write I'll basically do the 8 secrets on it. I will write down all of my rules on it. I will detangle any dense energy, any fears that I may have of receiving it. I'll ask myself all the questions that I put in the book just to see if I have any unknown blocks, because I don't want to wait for the block to show up. I'd rather tackle it before it even shows up, so I have a game plan. And then inevitably it will show up at some point, but I feel so equipped that I move through whatever it is so quickly. But at this point in my life, and I should probably change this, I think, at some point, but I just don't want for much. I have so many blessings, and they just keep coming as long as I'm staying in that beautiful high space and I'm serving humanity in the way that I feel like I'm called to, that everything has just been kind of like the icing on the cake, but I'm already in this wonderful, wonderful space. And so every once in a while, we'll be like, "Oh, I'm really excited about this," or "This would be really fun to do," and it'll show up, very, very quickly. But I just don't want for much at this point in my journey.
That's a beautiful thing to say as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, then again, you have been through a journey of getting a lot too. So yeah,
very much so.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, always amazing. And I love being able to talk, and the fact that this is going out to the Swedish community is very exciting for me too. Yeah. So keep me abreast of everything, and please include my staff in it too, so that we can celebrate on launch day.
Definitely. Is there anything you want to say to do you have a Swedish audience already?
We do, a very large one, actually.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yes. Yes. Lots of our practitioners are in Sweden. Just folks who have gone through my programs, a lot of book readers who bought the English version as well. I don't know the exact numbers. They, of course, change monthly, but very large in Scandinavia in totality, but especially in Sweden as well.
I'm so happy to hear. And do you only license or work with, you do license, or how do you say when you said it before?
By practitioners or?
Yeah, practitioners.
Yes. So I decided, funny enough, because my background is in, psychology, and I always thought I'd be a psychiatrist, but that was my ego speaking, I think, a little bit. And so when I started working clinically, it was very informal research I was doing with one of my friends who's a scientist who owns a bunch of clinics. There's actually one, I think, in Sweden as well, funny enough. Anyways, when I was kind of geeking out with him, whenever there would be someone who had a psychosomatic illness, I would go in and just talk with this individual. We'd find these incredible roots. Anyhow, that's what birthed my methodology. And I actually had universities ask, can we create this into a therapy program? And I was like, nope, because I don't want any red tape. I want practitioners to be able to say, I love you to the person they're serving, if it's appropriate to do so. I want them to not worry about all of the things that kind of sit in that world sometimes. And so I license or certify, just depends on, where they are in the world. We've got practitioners over 65 countries now. But I license them in my methodology, and they can become certified, or they can just learn the methodology and take it into their current practice. I don't care either way. I just want it to be out there in the world. And so they're out there spreading the beauty of their own light, and I get to be a part of it.
So if I wanted to be certified by Mandy Morris, I couldn't, because I don't have that background.
No, not at all. You can be someone who wants to become a life coach. You could be a counselor. You could be a therapist or a psychiatrist. It's just that I didn't plan this as such, but for some reason, the methodology works for so many different people of service, so many different walks of life, even just nurses, real estate agents, all kinds of different folks go through the program. It's really vast. I wish I could say it's for these types of people.
No, I want it to be open for everyone.
No, absolutely. So many different beautiful souls who just resonate with my work, and they've seen me help people the way that I do, and they want to do that for whether it's their family or their patients or their clients, or, they don't know why they want to, but they want to, then they can be certified. So it can be anybody.
wonderful news. So anything else you want to finish off this first, or maybe it's not your first interview with a Swedish audience?
I feel like it might, I know I've done some podcasts, but I cannot remember which and where. But I've got quite a few friends who are authors in Sweden and psychiatrists and so forth. So we've done kind of informal fun stuff, but this would be my first with a publishing company.
Wonderful. We're so looking forward to how this book is being welcomed on the Swedish market. I very much look forward to the launch, and I will keep you in the loop. And hopefully we will have a good reason to translate your next book as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.